Emily Saunders had always been a quiet presence at Maplewood High, the sort of student who seemed to blend into the background without much effort. She preferred it that way, actually, avoiding the spotlight, steering clear of the social whirl that defined so many teens' lives. With her soft-spoken manner, delicate frame, and large, thoughtful eyes behind a pair of rectangular glasses, Emily looked more like a shadow than a fixture in the crowded hallways. Her sanctuary was the environmental club, where her passion for sustainability and the intricate workings of nature could shine. But outside of that small circle, Emily was often the subject of whispers and sidelong glances. It didn't help that she had a taste for thrift store clothes, mostly soft greens and earth tones, and had recently started wearing t-shirts sporting slogans like "Save Our Oceans" and "Think Green, Act Clean." To many of her peers, she was too weird, a label that stung far more than they could imagine. Then there was Jenna Carlson. Jenna was everything Emily was not: loud, confident, and unapologetically cruel. As a senior, Jenna held undeniable sway over the student body, with her perfectly styled blonde hair, designer handbag perpetually draped over one shoulder, and piercing gaze that seemed to slice through anyone who crossed her path. Jenna ruled Maplewood High like an empress of discord. Her reign was fueled not by kindness or charisma, but by relentless mockery and intimidation. Pranks that rang with humiliation were her weapon of choice, and Emily had become a frequent target. There was a coldness in Jenna's smirk, a satisfaction she took in dismantling those who did not fit her ideal of popularity or strength. The cafeteria that chilly Wednesday afternoon was alive with noise. The clatter of trays, the hum of chatter, the occasional burst of laughter echoing off the high ceilings. Emily sat alone at her usual spot near the window, her nature documentary playing softly on her phone through her earbuds, barely audible over the din. Her eco-friendly shirt, which she had just bought online with her limited savings, read, "Protect what you love." She had worn it with quiet pride. It symbolized hope, and she clung to ideals of kindness and growth, even when the world around her seemed harsh and indifferent. But today, Jenna had her eyes on Emily. Strutting through the cafeteria with a group of her friends, Jenna's sharp gaze locked on the girl who refused to cower. The group edged closer until Jenna stood directly behind Emily's chair. Without a word, and with the theatrical flourish of a cruel prankster, she grabbed a carton of peach juice from someone's lunch tray nearby. Emily's head jerked up just in time to see the amber liquid splashing down over her pristine shirt, soaking the fabric and tracing a wet path over the vibrant green lettering. A sudden hush fell across the cafeteria, followed by a ripple of amused snickers. Jenna's voice sliced through the noise, loud and clear. "What's the matter, whisper girl? Too weird for us all. Maybe if you stopped talking about your save the planet nonsense, people would actually like you." Her friends burst into laughter, echoing her taunts, while Emily sat frozen, her heart pounding in a rushed rhythm of shock and shame. She wished she could disappear. Hot tears blurred her vision as she wiped at her face hastily, desperate to hide the stains, not just on her shirt, but on her spirit. The laughter seemed to swirl around her like a storm, oppressive and merciless. Students pulled out their phones, some snapping pictures, others recording, adding to the humiliation. Emily's cheeks burned, a burning that felt deeper than mere embarrassment. It was a raw, aching pain that scraped at her soul. She could feel every eye, every whisper branding her as an outcast. When the bell rang, offering a fleeting chance of escape, Emily bolted out of the cafeteria, her soaked shirt clinging like a second skin. Out in the courtyard, the chill of autumn air bit at her damp skin. Yet it was a welcome sting compared to the heat of humiliation she carried inside. She sank onto a bench beneath a cluster of maples, the red and gold leaves swirling around her like remnants of a shattered dream. It was in that solitude that Emily confronted the crushing weight of what had happened. The sharp sting of isolation wrapped tight around her chest, threatening to suffocate the flicker of courage that still lingered. She knew the school gossip would morph this incident into a story told and retold, painting her as the odd girl who couldn't catch a break. Was she doomed to be the target forever? A footnote in Jenna's cruel ledger of war. But in the quiet, something stirred. A tiny spark of defiance flared beneath the ashes of shame. Emily's hand brushed the edge of her backpack, fingers grazing the small notebook where she scribbled ideas and sketches. An escape and a future rolled into one. She had always believed that actions mattered, that change was possible even when the odds seemed stacked against you. If only there was a way to turn this pain into purpose. Could one girl's quiet strength ever outmatch the roar of a bully? Could the laughter be overturned by innovation and resilience? For now, the questions hung in the air like mist, waiting to be answered. If you've ever felt invisible or misunderstood, have you ever found a way to fight back not with noise, but with heart? The days following the cafeteria incident seemed to stretch endlessly for Emily Saunders. After the juice had soaked through her favorite eco shirt and dribbled down her arms, she had hoped for some relief, an apology, a kind word, even silence. But instead, the halls of Maplewood High became cold mazes where whispers followed her every step. The photos that Jenna and her friends had taken circulated quickly among students' phones, shared with cruel captions that smirked beneath their innocuous facades. Even students who had never given Emily a second glance suddenly seemed to know the story. The girl who wore "Save Our Oceans" shirts and got doused by Jenna Carlson's juice. Emily's sanctuary, the environmental club, became a complicated refuge. Some members offered quiet support and encouraging smiles, yet the shadow of the incident hung over every meeting. When she attempted to talk about her ideas for the upcoming statewide science competition, a faint but unmistakable skepticism clouded the room. "Are you sure your project will even work?" one of the more popular club members asked during a brainstorming session. Her tone was polite, but tinged with doubt. Emily wasn't sure if the doubt was just about the project or about her ability to pull it off. Each doubt was a small weight pressing on Emily's shoulders. Sometimes she caught herself wondering if staying true to herself was a losing battle, that maybe she should fold into the crowd, hide or change the parts of her that made her different. But that thought felt like surrender, and surrender was a bitter taste she refused to swallow. At night, she poured herself into her notebook, her fingers tracing and retracing the blueprints of her device. A small, wearable sensor designed to detect harmful toxins in food and drinks. It was inspired partly by the juice incident, but mostly by her intense desire to protect herself and others, to give students a tangible way to guard against bullying tactics that went beyond words and slaps, like tampering with food. She imagined a colorful bracelet, subtle and sleek, lighting up if something dangerous was detected, sending a discreet notification straight to the wearer's phone. Her room was filled with scattered textbooks, pieces of circuit boards she scavenged from old electronics, and scribbled notes illustrating chemical sensors and microprocessors. Her science teacher, Mr. Thompson, had been a hopeful presence throughout this tough stretch. He stopped by after class one afternoon, his gentle eyes scanning the fragmented components on her desk. "This has real potential, Emily," he said with an encouraging nod. "You're combining environmental science and tech in a way I haven't seen before. That determination is your greatest strength." His words lit a fragile, glowing thread through her darkest thoughts. But Jenna, of course, was not about to let Emily find peace or occupy any sort of spotlight. The bullying, subtle yet persistent, continued to trail behind her like a shadow. One day in the hallway, as Emily was carefully balancing her books, Jenna appeared with a snide smile. "Hey, freak, still planning your little science circus?" She sneered aloud so others could hear. "Maybe you should make a machine that scares people away. Oh wait, that'd be good for you. You're already so invisible." Emily bit back the urge to lash out, Instead, she clutched her notebook tighter and hurried away, the echoes of Jenna's laughter clanging behind her. But Jenna's barbs only sharpened Emily's resolve. As cruel as they were, each jab challenged her to be better, smarter, faster, not just to prove Jenna wrong, but because she believed in her project's purpose. Then the first hint of a breakthrough arrived. One afternoon after school, Emily connected the sensor components and ran a simple test with a variety of food samples. The bracelet lit up faintly when exposed to something unusual in a diluted vinegar solution, a promising sign that the device was responding to chemical changes. The thrill of success washed over her like a wave. Sitting in the quiet of her room, illuminated by the soft glow of the bracelet, Emily felt something new rise within her. Hope. The ripple effects of her small victories did not go unnoticed. A few students began approaching her cautiously, curious about the project, eager to hear more about this sensor that could protect them from sabotage. The tide was beginning to turn, slowly but surely, creating cracks in the wall Jenna had so carefully constructed around her. Whispers of admiration mixed into the usual gossip, blurring the lines of social boundaries. Yet Jenna was relentless. One day, Emily heard from a friend that Jenna had made cruel jokes about the stupid sensor during study hall, calling it nerd magic and warning others not to waste their time on Emily's silly ideas. Emily's heart ached, but she refused to show it. Instead, she resolved that no amount of mockery would derail her progress. But as the state science competition drew nearer, Emily faced a growing dilemma. The sensor needed refinement, and the pressure of deadlines mounted alongside the rising tension. Every stolen glance felt like a test. Would she be able to stand her ground, or would Jenna's bullying finally get the better of her? And yet, somewhere deep inside, a whisper persisted. Sometimes the quietest voices carry the stubbornest strength. Have you ever found your greatest strength hidden beneath the weight of doubt and cruelty? How do you keep faith in yourself when the world seems set against you? Emily Saunders found herself navigating the weeks before the science competition with an uneasy mix of determination and anxiety. The pressure to perfect her wearable toxin sensor mounted relentlessly, the delicate circuitry demanding her full attention. Each late night spent soldering tiny components or coding the sensor's interface chipped away at her fatigue, yet forged her resolve like tempered steel. Even as Jenna's relentless taunts echoed in the hallways and the dismissive sneers punctuated classroom chatter, Emily withdrew deeper into her work. It became both shield and sword. Rumors about the project flared unexpectedly one day during lunch. Emily overheard snippets of conversation from classmates who usually ignored her. "Did you hear? That weird girl is building some crazy gadget that senses poison," whispered one, while another mused with skeptical amusement. "Maybe she's trying to catch the queen of mean Jenna." Emily's heart flitted between embarrassment and a flicker of pride. The recognition, even if faint or tinged with disbelief, was a new sensation. Her project was no longer invisible. It was stirring curiosity and perhaps even hope. For a few weeks, she began to experience something she had scarcely felt before at school, a growing sense of agency. Then came the day that tested everything. It was during a casual get-together after school in the bustling cafeteria turned makeshift science fair among the club members. Emily had set up a prototype display, discreetly slipping on her sensor bracelet while explaining the device's purpose to a gathering crowd. The sensor flickered gently, a soft blue glow indicating all was normal. As excitement began to build, a sudden shriek shattered the moment. A classmate, Mark, someone friendly and well-liked, staggered backward, clutching his throat, eyes wide in alarm. Emily's gaze snapped to his drink on the table. Something was wrong. The sensor on her wrist flared violently, flooding with red light and a harsh buzzing sound. Shock rippled through the room. Panic flared. Emily jumped to his side, quickly helping Mark spit out his beverage. Students scrambled as Jenna's smug face appeared from behind a pillar. "Oops," she said with a sinister smile, as a tug-of-war began between fury and disbelief across the crowd. What no one realized, except Emily, was that Jenna had tampered with Mark's juice, slipping in a bitter chemical known to cause allergic reactions in some. The sensor, calibrated specifically to detect substances that might be harmful or aimed at sabotage, had reacted instantly. Its lights and sounds were not just a warning, but an alarm bell that exposed Jenna's cruel scheme in real time. The cafeteria held its breath as Emily handled the crisis with calm urgency, directing others to get Mark some water and calling for medical help. Jenna's confidence flickered and crumbled as eyes turned sharp and accusing. The pandemonium was a palpable victory, but also a turning point full of tension. Suddenly, Jenna's world shifted. Stripped of her usual authority, she was cornered by the growing evidence and the weight of her own hubris. No longer could she slap on a grin or wave off accusations. The sensor's undeniable warning broadcast her guilt to everyone. The social playground reversed course. The once unquestionable bully was now exposed and vulnerable. Emily felt the electric hum of vindication and relief. Yet the moment was fraught with complexity. She wasn't celebrating cruelty with cruelty. She had merely wielded intelligence and compassion as armor and weapon. Many classmates who had applauded Jenna's antics now regarded Emily with something between admiration and newfound respect. The principal was summoned immediately, and the school assembly was convened to address the incident and the larger issue of bullying. The tense anticipation crackled in the air as students filled the auditorium, buzzing with speculation and curiosity. Emily, seated in the front row, carried with her the full weight of this moment. This was more than a demonstration of her invention. It was an unveiling of truth, a chance to catalyze change. When called to the stage, Emily's voice trembled beneath the spotlight, but she projected with careful clarity. She explained the sensor's function, demonstrated its capabilities, and recounted the ordeal that had led her to develop it. The relentless bullying, the juice spill, the sting of public humiliation, and the resolve to turn that pain into something constructive. As she spoke, the crowd shifted. Resistance gave way to empathy. Heads nodded thoughtfully, whispers quieted, and a tentative solidarity began to form. Jenna, seated near the back, sat frozen, eyes darting anxiously. The power balance was tilting. Emily's final statement resonated through the hall. Bullying is not strength. It's fear disguised as power, but we all have the ability to stand up, to protect each other, and to choose kindness. This device isn't just for me, it's for anyone who's ever felt powerless. The room erupted in applause, some tentative, some enthusiastic, signaling the dawn of a new chapter at Maplewood High, one where courage and ingenuity could dismantle cruelty. But beneath the triumph lay suspense still. How would Jenna respond now that her crown had cracked? Would she accept the consequences or fight back with desperate fury? And would Emily's project withstand the glare of public attention or crumble under the weight of expectations? Change had begun, but the path forward was uncharted and unpredictable. Have you ever witnessed a moment where the underdog takes a stand and flips the script? How would you confront the daunting challenge of turning pain into power?